Blaze empowers men to, I guess, live the life that they've always wanted, but on their terms.
Mhm.
Blaze teaches men how to really get out of their head and into their hearts, really embodying a holistic life for themselves, their family, and their community as a whole. Welcome, Blaze.
Thank you so much for having me. And that word that you used, holistic, I spell it differently than most people. I spell it WHOLE. And it's like that, yes. And the reason for this is I came from construction. So I came from a tradie background where men said fuck. And then I studied Buddhism for 3 years. So I know what namaste means and I say fuck. And so like we can be holistic and have a look at the whole view of life and manhood and explore all those avenues, not just quote unquote spirituality. So yeah, I spell a little bit different, but it means the same.
I love it. I think I prefer holistic because it really embodies what that holistic with the H actually means.
It does.
I'm so excited to interview you. I'm like bubbling with so many questions. I feel like I'm here representing the women all across the globe, wanting to know these secrets that happen in the men's circle. But before we get into that, I want to
Mhm.
know a little bit about you and what brought you into doing this line of work. What ignited that passion inside you?
Yeah, from a very young age. So my dad left when I was 7. He was very violent, domestic violence. I saw at a very young age. So I'm the eldest of 5 siblings. So that was really when it ingrained that I'm a protector and I'm a leader. And through that, I just really had to step up and stop all of that. And mum left. Then at the age of 22, someone very close to me attempted suicide, slit both of his wrists, got 26 stitches and 60 seconds away from bleeding out. And that gentleman blamed me for moving away. So I grew up in this country town called Toowoomba. I moved to the Sunshine Coast, and that rocked my world. Because I didn't have the emotional intelligence at that time to actually deal with all of that. And then another person very close to me told me that I needed to be brave for this younger dude and that I wasn't able to show emotion because I needed to be strong for him. And I remember going to the back of this house. It was like 1 a.m, bawling my eyes out. So I had to put plastic bags over his hands and his forearms and tape them up so he could have a shower. Really, really horrific to that. I remember stuffing that emotion down at the back of the house. And so that's what I thought that was normal. Like I had to do that. That was my role as a man or a young man. So I went wayward for about 4 or 5 years then, addicted to everything known to man: drugs, alcohol, pornography, prostitution, like everything, steroid abuse, anything I could do to numb this pain. I didn't know how to be with it. But during all of that, I had these masks that I'd wear. So no one really knew what was deeply going on. And so I had this stoic mask, the athlete mask, and this like alpha mask I would wear, and everyone thought that I had everything together. And I played high level rugby league as well, and then led everything that I did in construction. So leadership has always been that innate nature. And through construction, I became a foreman at the age of 24. So I was leading men that were double my age at a very young age. And the reason I was so good at that is because I enjoy conversation, and my favorite day is Saturday to go to the markets and talk to all the strangers and get all that produce. So I just took all of that philosophy into construction. So I wanted to know what the men's wives' names, what the children's names were. One of the biggest questions I'd always ask every single one of my team members was, if you weren't doing this, what would you want to do? So starting invoking that dream state to men. And because of that, my teams they did very, very well. And then at the age of 27, had a spiritual awakening. And within construction, they had a suicide prevention company called Mates in Construction. So I redid all of their training, which then brought up all of this stuff from this younger gentleman attempting like 5 years beforehand. But I had this conscious awareness now of like, I'm a soul, not Blaze. So I really got to examine like, what's my purpose on this planet? And so I started delving into personal development, and then just started asking bigger questions myself. Read the book Conversations with God, Neil Donald Walsh.
Great.
And so then just trusted my path of the universe. And so just mapped out my life, and it was like, what am I really good at? What do I love doing? What's the best day of my life? What would that look like? And back then, I was just met my fiance. She wasn't my fiance then, but we didn't have children, and I was really excited to have children. So just started playing with that manifestation of like, how does that look? Had it all out in paper. I'm like, man, I don't know how do I monetize this? So how do I leave construction and then follow a path of doing everything I love? And I've never seen anyone in construction do that. So that alpha or that leadership thing that ignited something within me is like, man, I'm going to be the first dude to do it. Well, let's go. And so that led me down this path. And my partner and I created a tourism company, a venture business that was able to take people out in the mountains, in the wilderness, but it was always this deep reference to culture and indigenous. And then the universe just go, no, just do it with men, just do it with men, just do it with men. And so now it's like full time. This is all I do is with men. My partner and I do work with women and couples and stuff, but for me as the individual, it's men's work is super prolific. And I get asked so much by women, where are all these conscious men at? And so to be able to,
that was in my list of questions. See,
yeah,
I heard there is a
yeah.
women say, where are all the conscious men? It is there, honey.
Yeah. I got straight goosey, so I know I'm supposed to be here. And what you're doing and making this app is phenomenal. It's really beautiful, and we can feel the energy that is behind it. And it's going to be completely different to other apps that I won't say, but the energy behind this. And just for the viewers that are listening to, my fiance and I, we met online on an app.
Here, guys, on my channel, it is possible to find an amazing conscious man and woman on a dating app, and that was on a standard dating app. Imagine what Awake's going to have. It's like the of conscious people.
Yes, and I'd love to offer some advice for every man and woman of how we actually did that, because my partner was on there 2 minutes, I was on there 5.
On the list at the bottom.
Done. That's it. Let's do it.
Like that, I don't even need the list. See you later.
Yeah. But yeah, we've been together a bit over 6 years. We're getting married in November. We have 3 children together. We're in business together. Doesn't come without all the challenges in between, but it's we're proud to say what's possible, because we call each other in, hence this beautiful app that you're creating.
Love that. Oh my God, there's so much information there. Where do I start? My head is swimming and buzzing with excitement. First of all, I absolutely love that you touched upon when you were sharing your journey, and this is something I've always wondered and chatted about with my girlfriends, that we say, where are all the conscious men? We say that to each other. We do, and and you hear it. But then also at the same time, at the same breath, we say, how does a man be a man in this world? They're brought up, first of all, to have really, they're human beings, right? Let's make that clear. Men are human beings, so therefore they feel and they have feelings. But yet they're taught, in order to be supposedly what a man is, they have to somehow stuff all those feelings aside and be kind of this robot and this what society tells a man should be. But yet there's all this going on inside them. So it's like, how does a man exist in the world whilst being a man, whilst acknowledging their feelings, whilst trying to be this strong pillar? It must be very, very, very difficult. And where does one go to learn how to be a proper man? Because society teaches you how to be a toxic man, really.
Yeah, I don't like that word toxic, because that toxic masculinity really gets a bee in my bonnet, because it makes people shy away from that. But like, I'm not like, I played football and I was in construction, so I know what that is. And so I would like to call it that macho bravado. It's a show of this stoicism or this bravado that men have. And then this word toxic's been thrown upon it. But the thing is, those men are hurting so bad. And to say that a hurting man's toxic, you're going to shun him away and just push him further down a rabbit hole of alcohol abuse and drug abuse, which turns into violence and all that kind of stuff, which I don't condone. But if like you look in, there's like countries over in Europe, they made heroin legal. So they brought the addicts in closer, then they cleaned it all up. And so there's like, if rather than saying men are toxic, What about, hey, like men have been suffering in silence, men are hurting.
I
If
like
we
that.
acknowledge that, can we bring men in a bit closer to understand it? Because what you're saying is you're actually acknowledging that we men are holding a lot. And I just want to say, women, like seeing my partner go through childbirth 3 times, man, I've literally just like, there's so many men that on this planet that would tap out giving birth to a child. I know they're just like, I'm out.
I look at it,
And
I'm a woman and I'm like, wow, that is a massive thing. Like, how does, you're holding this soul, you're the conduit between heaven and earth, you're holding it in your body, and even just the physical aspect of it is like,
mhm,
let alone, you know.
yeah.
But like,
Yeah, but I think it's really beautiful to acknowledge that both genders are different. That we are from Mars and Venus, like that we're two different creatures, men and women, and if we can, yeah, and I know that there's like I'm very being generalizing here, and so for people that are gay or of different gender, one of my younger sisters is gay, which is really beautiful to have these open discussions around love and everything like that. So just know that I'm just being very general here, and I don't want to exclude anyone. But men and women, we think different, we feel different, and yeah, just being able to acknowledge that is really important, I feel.
yeah, and I'm really glad that you actually pulled me up on that word, because even though for me I use words as a just as a point, I'm not married to them. I think it's really important for women to really realize how sensitive men actually are, because I think we think that they're not sensitive because there's the masks, as you said, and there's this and that, and this is how they've learnt to survive in the world. But underneath all that, there's just so much emotion, wanting to be accepted and loved. And something just as perhaps triggering as that word, we need to start to rephrase things and I think look at them differently. And I am really glad that you've actually brought that up today in this interview. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Another thing, if we're talking about linguistics, a lot of the time, and this is one of the very first things we teach men when they come into one of my spaces, it's men refer to each other as boys. Oh, it's a boys' trip, it's a boys' day. And women refer to, oh yeah, the boys are just out having a barbecue. If we're talking linguistically, calling each other boys and girls, that's how we're going to treat each other. If you want a conscious man, start calling men men.
I love
And
that.
literally it gives us a benchmark. And it literally, as soon as that conversation happens in a men's space, the first man to say, hey, he drops boys. Hey man, not wronging you, but let's have a look at the invitation of what happens to everyone else. If we start calling each other men, what happens? We elevate to that standard. There's a difference between a boy and a man, and I believe the difference between a boy and a man is that a boy does everything for himself. Now, this toxic masculinity or these wounded, hurt men, they are doing everything for themselves, and we're continually calling them boys. But if we start calling them men, men do something for the sake of others. Now, that's, I believe, what it means to be a conscious man and the difference between a boyhood and manhood. Now, I just want to put my hand in the air. I'm 38 and I didn't feel like a man standing on my own 2 feet till I was 32. I literally felt like a boy. And so that I just put my hand in the air for all the men out there that don't feel like they're a man and that are older than 22, 23, like that. How do we define what it means to be a man? There hasn't been that line drawn in the sand of like, this is when you become a man. This is why we as a gender are feeling lost in this generation, because what it means to be a man, what's required of us as men now is far more greater than ever in history. And so that's why we feel so lost. So, but I think the very first thing, we come back and just start calling men rather than boys, it's going to be a huge thing. And you're going to look at it a little bit different, I feel, as men and women.
What an amazing point to bring up, that first of all, words are really, really, really powerful. And what I got from that is words land quite strongly with, I guess I'll say with a man, but I'll say just with people in general.
Yeah.
You know, and even just talking to you now, I've already, as a woman, have gotten so many pointers on sort of how to come forward towards a man. Boys, I don't even use that word anymore. Forget about it. It's gone. And it's really
It's gone.
know this. And speaking of which, now I think I speak on the behalf of every single conscious woman out there. I would love to know what happens in these men's circles, because you hear about, you come and do the work. I've done the work. I'm going to do the work. But what is actually this work?
So
Is that a
there is a yes, and so one of the very first things, and I'm happy to talk about this. One of the very first things with any deep men's circle or deep space is that we need to set an honor code. The way that I run it and that my mentors have taught me how we run it, and which has been passed down, and there's this deep reverence for elders respect to this. Number one is confidentiality. Now, we tell men that one man's business is none of your business. You do not go back to your partner or your children or your mates and talk about his business. The reason for that is if that happens, it's gossip. And so if we're breaking a man's trust by talking about his business, how can he be so forthright in actually really disclosing what's really going on for him? So that goes through all of men's work. There's a confidentiality. You know, the reason for that is men have lost trust in men. And so how can men trust the masculine and ultimately themselves? Because that's what we want to teach in men's book, is to trust themselves and come in this way. Now, the way that we do that is they need to trust the brotherhood first. They find strength. We all humans, one of the core base fears is like that fear of not belonging. And so if we can belong to a tribe of men or a brotherhood that are all on that common ground, wanting to better ourselves without judgment, without fear, we can then take off these masks and these layers and brick by brick take down that wall that we created in front of our heart, because we can trust each other and know that it's safe. And then if we can trust each other, then we can go inwards with that inner truth and then sit with all of those big things that we're being with. So that's what we're up to in men's work. And so specifically, we can't really disclose individual cases and everything like that yet. This is what we're up to. And like I've been involved in personal development as well as facilitators, and also on, and this is both genders, and as participants. There's a complete another level that happens in men's work. And if you ladies have been listening to personal development, been to personal development, we know how deep it can go. But if you remove a gender, because there's a sexual mask that men wear as well, this bravado that we have to have it all together because a woman's in the room. You remove that mask, man, men go all in. This is why a lot of people that come to the retreats that I run, that we have this big honor ceremony that third day where all the women, the children come out, and they're like, what did you do? He's a completely different man. And it's like, literally, we just disconnected him from his role as a provider and women. And then he was able to explore in here, because we live in this world of that bigger, better, faster, stronger generations. Go, 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 go for men. The more we do, the more that we've been achieved. Yet, if we're not achieving as men, we've created this belief that we're not good enough. So we're always on the go. And I know that's another generalization because a lot of men aren't. But yeah, that's what we get up to men's work. And the other thing there too was around non-judgment. And so the big thing that we teach within men's work is that like your beliefs are your beliefs, and that we get to examine them together and challenge them, but we'll never say that your beliefs are wrong. And so and that then brings up a lot of discussion around some really deep controversial things, like the conversation, and this is going to go on a different tangent, but like the world wouldn't be where we were if it wasn't for Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
And so people are going to have so many viewpoints on Adolf Hitler, right?
Oh, yeah.
But then who says we're right or wrong? And so what we teach is that, okay, you can have your beliefs and everything like that, but then consciousness just is. And so there's this beautiful analogy I gifted, and I'd love to gift you and your listeners, that consciousness, we're talking about conscious, how do we find a conscious man? How do we find a conscious woman? That when we're born with consciousness, we just is. We're just neutral. There is no right or wrong. It just is. And so consciousness is like a stream. It's just crystal clear. The only reason that you can see that the water's there is just this little ripple of water, a ripple of air on top of it. Now, if we place a rock inside that stream, that water starts to distort a little bit. The more rocks that we place inside that water, it starts to turbulate. If we get enough rocks in there, we can't even see the river rocks at the bottom anymore. It's all white water. And so the question I'd like to ask you is, what are those rocks that we put into consciousness?
Oh, I'm just absorbing so much information there. I've got 100,000,001 questions.
So
Yeah.
those rocks are beliefs.
Yeah.
So it's our job as a conscious person is to pick those rocks up out of our flow state of consciousness and examine them. And do we need them? Do we not? Yeah.
So much conditioning of all sorts.
So much.
Masks, roles, so many burdens, so many things we've told we should be, we have to be, we must be, this is what we are, this is how it's done, this is how society does it. And like explaining the flow, and initially it was flowing beautifully, it was crystal clear, it was, effortless. And then the rocks, as we described and identified what they are, it stops the flow, water starts to splish everywhere, it's a wonderful analogy and so easy to imagine and identify with as to how it works kind of on an energetic level.
Yeah, and if we look at if we think or associate to ourselves as a conscious man and woman, and we feel heavy and weighed down, it's usually because we've got some rocks weighing us down. So go examine those beliefs, let them go, you'll feel lighter. So I love analogies and storytelling that way.
Yeah, I'm really visual, so I'm in the stream right now. I love how you. I love when you described when I asked you about the men's circles, how you immediately went into the amount of effort and respect that's there to create a safe container. And I'm because I'm trying to place myself in a man's mindset from talking to you. It sounds like there is so much pressure on what they should be, what they need to be, what they are, what they aren't. It just feels like now that I'm talking to you, it's like just these boulders. They're just carrying like these boulders around. And then they come into your men's circles and they can just be however they are. And I can imagine initially some of them don't even know who they are or what they are because they just are survival mechanism after mechanism, that it will take a time to release the boulders and then go into like, actually, what do I feel? What do I need? Who am I? What do I want? Like, it's huge.
Yeah, it's massive and it never ends. This is the thing of when we get into men's work, it never ends. So a lot of men that aren't in a men's space right now might see that as very challenging. Yet for me, finding men's work 6 years ago, there's only been 3 weeks in those 6 years I haven't been involved in a men's team or a men's space or something that I'm leading because I know the value of it. And those 3 weeks that I weren't part of it, it was like, man, my life went backwards. So I'm like, okay, cool. I need accountability. Like, yes, there's going to be challenge, but that's how we grow. And there's also camaraderie and encouragement and support and celebration. And those boulders that you mentioned, another analogy to look at that can relate to men as well is goalposts. So the goalposts that have been set in life, like as men that play sports, like, oh yeah, there's a goalpost, that's where we're going to go to get the try or the win. But whose goalposts are they? This is the question we ask in men's work. Are they your dad's goalposts, your parents' goalposts, your partner's goalposts, society's goalposts? Like, and when we are able to go, oh, I'm not quite sure. That's what I've just been told. Well, maybe discover what success means for you as an individual, as a man. And then that's where you judge yourself from. Because at the moment, those goalposts, did you set them? And so that's one thing, the deep thing that we get up to in men's work is like examining those goalposts.
Wow. Just when you were saying that, even just listening to you, I had an immediate feeling over my body of relaxation, like an exhale.
Yes.
I can't really explain it fully or perhaps articulately, but just by you saying that, I just exhaled and relaxed in my body, knowing it was like I completely unplugged from all of that, plugged into here. And it was just immediately my nervous system relaxed. And it almost gave me I felt like an empowering that it is my journey, me, I matter type of feeling and essence.
That inhale comes from expectation, scarcity, anxiety. I've got to prove myself. Goalpost, everyone else's. But that, I'm just responsible for my own goalpost. Ah, it's
Exhale.
really exhale. Is that it? We always teach that too. Making decisions from that place, from the exhale, rather than
Yeah, a lot of breath.
yeah.
And now I wanted to ask you, is there a main struggle? I don't know if you're able to share this because of what you said before, but I've genuinely been interested. Is there a main theme? Is there a main struggle that you keep seeing that men are experiencing? Like say the top three, if we could say that
Yep.
is really, really similar to perhaps all men that every man could relate to, perhaps.
Oh, 100%. Men are feeling lost, and they're feeling like they're lost. They don't know who they are and direction. So they go hand in hand. So some people know who they are, but they don't know the direction. Some people are just completely lost. But there's a spectrum within that. So if you're feeling lost, or if you're like feeling like you don't have a direction, number one, that's like across the board. Number two is men and their relationship to anger. Men haven't like nearly every man in my vortex talks about anger, like everyone, that we have this pent up anger, even men that don't realize that they've got it there, because anger is this beautiful emotion that's been taught as men to suppress because of where we can go. Like we can literally kill people with their bare hands.
So
Yeah.
power.
Power, and then how to harness that. And then if we've seen as young children like myself domestic violence, we don't want to replicate that, so we diminish that anger and suppress that. Hence why we're in a generation right now of people pleasers. You look across the world as a stereotypical generalization here that men are like people pleaser, nice guys. That's not what you women want. You want men to take lead. You want men that are forthright with their emotions and using their voice, and that are able to say, oh no, yet we're just saying yes to everything as a generalization. And so, yeah, that emotion of anger on all fronts. And then that comes with the layers of like guilt and shame that men feel when they're like expressing anger or frustration, or that volcano erupting on their family and the people that they love the most. And then, yeah, relationship. And so it doesn't, relationships is the biggest thing, because they like our relationships with all people. So with usually intimate relationships, but then I remember doing this amazing program called Dads on Purpose by a brother of mine, Jedi Azuma from the States. And it was the first container I've ever been in. Everyone was a dad.
Wow.
It was amazing.
Oh,
but everything was always back around relationships of like with our partner, or if there was a separation of like the mother of the child, but it was always coming back to relationships. So they're the three big things: fatherhood, purpose, relationships. And then I think those three pillars just come off with everything. But yeah.
Wow. It's interesting how you described anger. I always thought from the outside in that men were unable to express their emotions to a degree, and anger was the easiest, most attainable emotion to express while they still felt powerful, because it is a powerful emotion. So it was kind of a way that it was the most tangible emotion kind of thing. That was my take on it anyhow.
Yeah, and this is one of those yes and conversations, because it's like there's so many layers to all of it, and like what you're saying is like 100%. It's the first go-to because it's a reaction, and it comes back to that go do. Men are celebrated when they make quick decisions, so react on your emotions. And but like in football, the faster I made decisions as captain, and the harder I went, the more aggressive I was, the more I celebrated. On the job site, as a boss, the more prolific that I was, like my way, the highway, and getting shit done, the more I was praised from my above. Now I take that methodology, put it in a relationship, it doesn't work.
No.
But everywhere else in life that I was involved in that was important to me at that time was football and my career. I get celebrated to be that man. Yet I want a conscious relationship, it doesn't fly. I want to be a conscious father, it doesn't fly. So this is literally my work, and majority of men's work of like, how do we recreate ourselves to be in that dance of life, to be like the man that we need to be in every different situation and scenario.
When you talk, I'm having literally light bulb moments, and I'm really getting it's like ding, ding, ding. I'm literally getting insights about what men go through. You know, I go from like, where are all the conscious men, to like, wow, men are going through so much, you know, because exactly what you explained them. Here you have to be a leader, be aggressive, make decisions. Here you have to be a leader, you know, and you're getting praised for it, and you know, it's working for you. But then you meet a woman and she wants a different way or a different side, but yet that woman also wants the leadership and the,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but
Yeah.
having to be this softness as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's a lot.
It's a dance. It's
It's
a
a
dance.
that's a really big dance.
It's why frameworks are so important for men, because we are logical beings, and for us to have structure and frameworks to look at, like, oh, this is why I feel a certain way. So look, the stuff that I've been looking into is Carl Jung and the King Warrior and all the conscious. Oh, where's my king at? And so that's a big buzzword at the moment. But yeah, those frameworks around king, warrior, lover, magician, magician, and the jester have really helped me to articulate, oh, okay, when I'm in this situation, I need to be in my king energy. When I'm in this situation, I need to be in that warrior energy. Actually, this situation here needs that lover. And then you fuse them together. It's like, oh, that king and that lover, because that's what a lot of women like. A man that is loving, but is also taking leadership. And
Oh,
so,
yeah.
and then in business, and to be tapped into my mystic, and like looking at this in the healing game, living my mystic. But hey, I've got to be in my jester with the kids and myself. And so those frameworks have been this beautiful synergy for allowing myself, my teams and clients to know that, okay, when we're in these relationships, when we're in business, when we're in this, there is these elements of manhood that we need. We need to be over all of them, hence holistic, WHOLE. So yeah.
Yeah. Again, getting an insight on what it's like to be a man. And it sounds like when you do the work, you're kind of able to step into those roles from the inside out.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Rather than kind of running around, just kind of not connected to who you are. And it's pulling on you. But it sounds like when you do the work, you're able to, there's like a foundation there that you've created within yourself, and therefore you're able to choose. You're more empowered, that you're more in charge of
Yes.
what you're bringing and who you're going to be at that particular time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you used another beautiful word, those foundations. So that's the number one thing that we teach men, is the two cornerstones of manhood. We believe is our values, because they never ever sway from us. And so there's those three stages of learning when we learn those values. But like 99% of men, before they come in anywhere at my teams, is they don't know consciously their value system. And so this is what we're talking. This is where you judge and perceive yourself from. This is why you're judging other people from, is from our value systems. But once we've got that locked and loaded and we know what our values are as a man, then our foundations, we have that internal compass. It's like, oh, I know where north is now for me. So I have my value systems. Once that's locked and loaded, then we start looking at vision. Because vision, then we have aspire to something like where we're going to be going with this value system. So the values is the compass, and then the vision is the map. And then once we have those two cornerstones, we then feel like we have purpose, and purpose is also then our life has meaning. And so we're always then achieving, doing to become that best version of ourselves every single day. So yeah, 100% on the money is like when we do the work and find out what those values are, we have foundations to build our life from.
Love it. Absolutely love it. So if there was a men out there watching this interview with you, what would you advise them? Like, what would be the three things that you advise them? They're at home, they're struggling, they're playing all these roles, they're not happy, they're pushing all these feelings down. They're experienced what you experienced before you did this work. What are the three top tips that you would say to them? What do they need to do to create?
Find someone, and I know this may seem egotistical, but someone like myself that is just putting content out there every single day to help you as a man. That is also just be very vigilant of who you follow. Like, are they only putting their highlight reel up there? But ensure that whoever you is putting themselves out there in a leadership perspective is giving the whole perspective of manhood, bro. Because life is colorful and gray and everywhere in between, and we don't have it all figured out. No one ever does or ever will. So follow someone like that, so that you got like an anchor to come into every day. Like rather than sitting smoking and scrolling, you're watching someone's podcast or listening to something. So you're actually immersing yourself in these new conversations and trying to learn different ways, because at somewhere in history, someone or another man, usually millions, had that same problem or challenge you're facing. And like a lot of the time in that position, you feel like you're the only one. Number two is this little hack that is how to break your state. So a lot of the time we as men never do anything for ourselves, and we do it for everyone else. So we, like, especially in construction, you get up before the sun's up, you get home after the sun, and then you're eating dinner. The first thing you may do for yourself is like sit down and watch TV at 8 o'clock at night. When you finish work, get the armor off. Doesn't matter, and this doesn't matter if you're in construction, if you're in IT, if you're in an office, doesn't matter what job it is. Once you finish it, take off your armor, which is your uniform or whatever you're wearing, get into something that you love to be in. That armor is the warrior that gets shit done. Now, if you're in a relationship, or if we're in that warrior state, the warrior wants to be greeted like 300, like celebrated and praised. Yet, yes, bow down to.
What can I get you?
Yet we walk home as warriors, and then it's like, hey mate, can you, like, partners like, hey, can you change your baby's nappy, peel the pumpkin, get dinner going? And it's just like, oh, this isn't the celebration. But if we're able to do something for ourselves, so take the armor off and just take one pocket at a time, 15 minutes just to sit in nature and not do anything, just be. So no phone, no journal, no social media, nothing, no watch. And just sit down and watch the sunset. Put your feet on the grass, the feet of the dirt, into water if you can. Watch the sunset. Like just do something for yourself before you go back into that life, or go into the gym, because gym is doing something. Just literally just be for a moment. In that being, what we do is we're able to tap into that essence of love, which is just we are enough, we're being. And that's a huge one, that one, just breaking our state. The third tip would be
30 seconds left.
Cool. Do you want to go again after this? Do you want to? Yeah.
So
awesome.
And then
yeah. Awesome. Let's do that, and I'll think of the third tip.
Okay. I'm going to call you back in 2 minutes.
Done.
Bye, honey.
Back. The third step. Now, this third one is maybe one that's going to challenge you the most, but is step into men's work. It was one of the most challenging things I've ever had to do in my life, was to leave something that was familiar and this way of life. And like all of my mates at the time, like I was studying Buddhism, and my mates didn't even know. Wow. I wasn't even talking about that. So to step into men's work and then go to a men's circle or a fire circle or a men's retreat or an online workshop, it may seem super daunting, but I can, like, literally, it is the best thing you'll ever do in your life. Wow. Ever. And there's no turning back from it. Even if you get into that circle and you know, and then it's like, oh, that wasn't for me, at least you know. You're never ever going to die wondering. But if it's a good circle or program retreat, like, you'll never go back. But it's changed my life. I literally changed my life. And I wouldn't still be with my fiance. I wouldn't have had the second child or the third child if I didn't have men's work and men's teams around me and support. Seeing a psychologist, I've seen a couple of them. I'm actually seeing a psychologist at the moment who's amazing, but he comes 10 years from men's work. So he's a little bit different than the clinical psychologist. And the psychologist was amazing. It allowed me to start talking a little bit, but then men's work was when I got to meet other men. And then that was the big realization, like, oh, it's not just me going through this stuff. Other men feel these challenges and these stresses and everything. It's just that we've been taught not to talk about them. But then there's a safe space to talk openly about everything, ask for advice, get support. Your life just changed exponentially.
Wow. Yeah, look, even just you saying that, without being a man or not, I think there's just so much separation in society. And then along comes the internet, and we mistake texting or messaging as some sort of connection. But it's like fast food, really. It's not really giving your body and your soul the nutrients that it needs. I know for myself, I crave connections just so very deeply, but on a very, very deep level. And the work that you're doing and providing for men, I think all our souls are thirsty for that to some degree or another, you know?
Yeah. I remember there's this camaraderie that comes from construction. It came from the football field, and it was beautiful, this camaraderie, but then it was laid with all of this bravado stuff and these masks. And so when I separated from all of those old mates, within me, I had this yearning for that belonging or that sense of connection like that, but I didn't know what it was until I found men's work. When in the men's work, it was like my soul said to me, "Oh, bro, this is what this is what you've been looking for." And it's like this brotherhood that it isn't based off bravado or this macho culture of trying to prove yourself. It's like, no, man, you've just been used enough. And it's that soul of, this is exactly what every human wants. It's just to feel like you belong. And then if you feel like you belong, and then there's a tribe of men doing all of the same thing, and then you can become a better man, a better husband, a better partner, a better father, a better businessman. Like, oh man, why not be part of that?
Yeah.
And so there is a circle for you. There is. And there's like different circles and different flavors, but yeah, you'll find one for you.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Just when you're sharing that, I just felt in my body this, like, my heart started to come almost aching, saying like, I want that,
Yeah.
I need that. And I think that we all do, but because we're just almost in survival mode all the time, or we mistake these sort of very watered down connections on the internet as actual real connection, that we don't even almost stop and say, what do I really want on a soul, on a heart level? And thank you for bringing that to my attention, because now I'm going to look for a woman's group because I want that.
Yes. Yeah.
So how do these men who want to do the work, who want to connect, find a brotherhood, how do they find you? Is there I mean, I'll put the links down below, but is there an upcoming workshop that they can get involved?
Yeah. So I actually have Unlock the Warriors Code. So literally teaching men how to find their value system. And like what you've been saying is that this workshop's face-to-face. This isn't online. So anyone in Southeast Queensland on the Sunshine Coast, Thursday, the 9th of June, so in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, you can find that on my Facebook page. But then also there's like other things that my team and I do, sort of online programs and 3-day retreats here on the Sunshine Coast. That retreat's a pretty big call card for a lot of men, and a lot of men's partners also buy it for their partners and their husbands and everything. So there's men from all over Australia flying in for that one. It's again based here on the Sunshine Coast. It's what we call a modern day man's rite of passage. So that how do you become a man? Like, we need that dojo or that rite of passage to be able to do that. So we take you through a process. We disconnect from society. You don't have a phone for 3 days. Your family comes out. We take you through the 3 stages of a rite of passage. We never did that as young boys. A lot of these like things is like, oh, you buy a house, that means you become a man. Oh, you get the job, you be a man. You get married, you're a man. Oh, you lose your virginity, that's what it means to become a man. It's like, no, man, none of that is anything to do with your manhood in this generation or this society. So let's explore that for you. So yeah, and then there's also for the because of the internet and the beauty of the internet, we also have online programs. Now that connection, that touch, that heart-to-heart stuff is something that is like deeply prolific within my psyche as well. So our online stuff is like that as well. So we've found this way of like, how can we bring that synergy of this heart-to-heart connection when we're just screen to screen? And yeah, it's beautiful to then see those men when they meet in real life. It's like, man, it's like they always know each other.
Oh, my heart's exploding all over the place. It's so beautiful. I mean, even just talking to you, you've got a presence about you, and there's a safeness about you. Like there's a literally, I can see energy like this container of love, like you're there. So I can imagine even through the screen, these men that would come to you would have more connection and more realness than probably they would have ever experienced in real life with other people.
It's that. Thank you for saying that. It's something that I really pride myself on. Is integrity is my second highest value, and they're like to be authentically me in all areas of my life, including showing up on social media, because it's easy just to do the Instagram, do the highlight reel, but like can I be all of the realness of everything, not just a highlight reel? And it's challenging. Like there's like a lot of stuff to continually face off with to be real. Yet, hi, buddy. Oh. One more. Feel better? Yeah. Okay, give me a big cold, buddy. Can you give me a go? Handshake? Yes. Hey.
Oh my God.
Thank you.
I think that
Thank
was
you for your patience.
Talking about being real, we just had a live demonstration of what it's like to be a man and juggle the roles and step from, you know, being this amazing entrepreneur leader to quickly straight into dad.
Yes.
And us getting to experience, I'm always going to cry. Us getting the experience of the techniques that you've shown your daughter and that she's absorbed and learnt to sort of manage herself, which was a nice balance of letting it all out and letting it flow freely, but then to also have techniques to calm her and bring her back to her center. Wow.
So that was actually my son. He's a good-looking rooster.
Son, sorry.
Yeah, don't apologize. Kids all look the same, and I just want to let you know what he's my eldest boy, okay. And so his name is Breath. And so when I found meditation, we've decided to call our son Breath, because breath is the most powerful tool on the planet, which might be a beautiful segue. I know we spoke offline about my last name being Grinner.
Yeah, I asked you straight away.
Yeah, and so Grinner's not actually my last name. I changed it by default when I found out I was having a boy. Like I mentioned, with the domestic violence with my dad, and through men's work, started to having conscious conversations to dad when I was about 33. 5 years ago, and I asked him about his childhood, because he wasn't forthright in that in my upbringing about sharing that kind of stuff. And his father was very violent. His father's father was very violent. So yeah, when I found out I was having a boy, I changed my name by default to put the sword in the sand and say, no, it stops with me. So yeah, so it's nice. I've got 2 boys and a girl. He's the oldest, and so yeah, the little Grinner brothers. It's that's my mentor, and this is something I'd love to just gift the men that are watching, and women actually, is that we don't truly embody something until we teach it. And so if we want to be conscious men or women, like if we're using these techniques to come back and bring techniques, like teach them to our children, because we wish that we had that. Like that dude's only 4 and he knows how to do the breathing, come back. But yeah, teach it, and our children are there, man. So teach them everything that we're using. And so yeah, that's just.
And there's like sponges. It's so heartwarming to hear, like you mentioned cycles of abuse, you know, how it does go from generation to generation. Or it can do, and so does drinking and drug and alcohol abuse. I mean, there's so many different spectrums of abuse and how that can be passed down through generations. And we just got to experience literally the opposite end of that. You know, here your family has experienced a lineage of abuse in this way, shape and form, and then here you are teaching your son breathing techniques and him to release his emotion, and that it's safe to release his emotion and it's okay to release his emotion. Like
anyone that watched that,
I think every woman in Australia is pregnant right now. If I can say that respectfully, you know, what an amazing demonstration of balance and what a man can do and be. And
it's not without work, man. And like like literally, that was a nice example of it. But there's times that I explode. So like. Bath time's my biggest challenge, is when the water goes everywhere, and I've got like the 3 children and the trigger, and like, so that was just one example. I'm in my environment, like my office is my territory, so I feel safe, I'm here. And so, but yeah, there's times that I don't, but I always celebrate coming Like just like, yeah, man, I'm coming back, just doing the work. So
Yeah, and it's okay to do the work and not be perfect. You men and us and women, we're not doing the work to be perfect, are we?
no,
Really? Because that's just an unattainable. Ideally, that would be great, but it's just really not the here or there, is it? It's
no,
not really a real,
100%.
a tangible.
The big one was the pressure I placed upon myself to be the world's first perfect father. I had to be perfect. I had to do everything right. And then I just felt like I wasn't. And then my coach, and Jetty, he's just like, bro, you're not going to be the world's first perfect father. And that was some advice that he got. And so I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm not going to be. I'm going to fuck up and just let go of that pressure and just do the best that I can. And if I do fuck up or do something that is out of alignment with who I wish to be, just go back and clean it up. And like, actually,
Yeah.
I'll give the men a piece of advice. This is something I've
Yeah,
learned
do
is
that, because
amazing.
that was a great thing to talk about. Like you're always going to fuck up as a human,
Yeah,
but what
and
happens
just
after?
so declare, own, recommit. And
Mm,
so this is the 3 steps. And so declare means that you have to consciously know that you're out of alignment with who you wish to be. And then the ownership aspect is then go talk to somebody about that. So if it was my boy, say if I yelled at him and it just erupted at him, when his nervous system had settled down, I'd go back and first declare to myself, like, man, that wasn't good. Own to him, hey, the way that I spoke to you was not okay. Now, the ownership has to have no justification. So you can't say because of this. So we can't justify our reasons or
so no
excuses of this.
buts.
There's no but or and of because
Oh,
dad was tired or you're throwing the water. Unacceptable. Let's just own it. And then the recommitment. My commitment moving forward, or what you can rely on me for now, is to do the brick, is to not yell at you. But to talk to you about this or X, Y, and Z. So that's been a really big, powerful tool as a parent, but as also within men's work in my relationship, because it's that hard pill to swallow of declaring this. I'm like, oh, because it's so easy to just let that slide.
yeah.
But we don't build trust. We don't build our integrity if we don't do that. And whether we like it as not, men, because we have a dick, people hold us accountable. Our partners, our children, our bosses, men are held accountable to our work. That is just innate throughout humanity.
Agree. Agree 100%. But
Yeah.
for me in general, not just men, if a person doesn't have their word, what do they have?
Yes.
You know, what other pointer is there that you say one thing, either you do it or you say, this thing that I said that I was going to do, I'm acknowledging this, but can I do it this other time, or I'll do it on a different day? But like just that, yeah, word is so big.
It is. I feel women are very flexible with their word.
Yeah, oh, okay, this is great. Bring it on.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And and this is I'm happy to trigger some women right now.
Bring it on. I love this sort of stuff.
But yeah, I just think the feminine is flowing, and sometimes because I feel that you guys, women, men say what they mean, women say what they feel, and so you, as a gender, like for instance, my partner may say, "I hate you." She doesn't hate me. What she's really saying, what she means, is that I wish you had more quality time. You spend a lot of time doing your business and your work and the kids. I just want to be close to you. That's what she means. But what she feels like, fucking hate you. Now, if a man says to me, I hate you, I'm like, let's go, bro.
Yeah.
But we know what that means.
Yeah, there's more direct.
But there's so much more layered emotional depth to women, I feel, compared to men, because we're logical and you guys are emotional beings as well. So I think that's why the level of integrity is like flexible with you guys, because there's a lot more emotion involved, whereas we're very logical.
Hey, this is such a juicy topic. My mind is
It is.
I think as women, we are really not taught to be that upfront with our feelings and upfront with our needs. So there is a disconnection for us in ourselves as women, I think, as well. Like I feel like I always know what I mostly what I want and need, but actually just to come out and sit there and express that and say,
Mm,
I need this from you. I know as a woman, I'm petrified as coming across. Well, first of all, it's not familiar for me to express my wants. It's not familiar for me to come out and express my needs. And perhaps it comes out in different ways because we've been taught that if a woman does that, she is needy, she is this, she is that, she is all these things
yeah.
which are kind of unredeemable and undesirable in society.
Mm.
So, and there's the fluctuation of just our bodies are always fluctuating that. And I totally agree with what you're saying, but also I think there's that at play as well.
100%. There's yes ands to everything. It's like, yeah, because there's, yeah, but, and with what you're saying too, this is like, even exploring our love languages together with my fiance. Um, I had been conditioned to not deeply ask for what it is that I desired as well as a man. And the more that I explore this with men, it's like this is now all of us men as well. It's not just a Blaze thing. This is all of us men. And so, an example of this is one of my love languages, physical touch. It was like, oh, I want more flirting with you. And so, yeah, that's what I said. But that leaves so much assumption, like so much assumption there. But what it took me, like us revisiting this to get to that point of like, actually, you know what I want is to you to walk up and grab me on the cock. That's what I deeply desire as a man. But
Yeah.
it took me once to get to that confidence to actually declare that, which then brought up a lot of stuff for my fiance. And she's like, if I do that, it's going to, I think that you're going to want to have sex straight away. And so we had this beautiful conscious conversation, but it's now up on number one on the fridge in our love bank. It's like cock grabs. But there was, because I was able to be forthright and actually deeply ask for what is it I deeply desired, that then that conversation of insecurity came up, or the assumption, and we able to have this, now we have a standard or this like conscious agreement. Cock grabs doesn't mean sex. It means this, I feel wanted. And that's how, for me, now every man high fives me when I tell them that. It's like, oh, I want that too. I'm like, you're going to ask for it, bro. You're going to ask for it because people don't know what they don't know. Now, the thing is, if we go asking for that, we also then need to allow the woman to ask what she needs as well. Yeah.
You got to have space to go through her that whole process of what that brings up for another person who has had completely different experiences and has completely different, things going on within their little universe.
Yes.
To
Yeah.
you
What you've just,
kind of
you,
play as one as harmoniously as you can.
yes, I think this is some amazing advice now for the dating app. And so now I'm in a committed relationship, and what I'm unpacking is the unconscious agreements that I've had from past exes and bringing them unconsciously into this relationship. The unconscious agreements my partner's had in her exes and bringing them into this relationship. And so now the big thing is like, if you're in a dating thing, when you come into this relationship, this new relationship, it like try as best of your ability to let go of the slate or clean the slate, and don't assume that the woman is going to have the same everything that all the exes, and the same for the woman, that the men aren't going to be the same all the exes. And that's it. That if you're able to do that, that's definitely going to help that dating game, especially when you start getting past the dating and the intimate connection and committed relationship, because those unconscious agreements are doozies.
Oh man, I don't even know you're there. Like I've been single for 3 years, ever since this whole thing came out and people started getting the, you know what, I'm just like, yeah. So that's why I've created Awake. If you managed to piece what I said then with that, me having to say much.
Yeah, I just
Yeah. So when people started getting this, I was like this, and it's been 3 years now. I'm like, there's got to be other people that are feeling the same as me. So there's something needs to happen. There needs to be a platform created where we can connect without having those conversations that are awkward. And the people that have done this kind of just don't really understand. Like you're not on the same. I've tried to talk and have these conversations. and saying this is what I've chosen for myself, but it doesn't come across that way. But yeah, so what I'm saying is I've just did the woman description of what I'm saying. I've gone and this is my point.
Yes, yes, exactly.
This is how we talk. So my point is that you think you're okay and you've done all the work and you're feeling great, life is amazing, blah, blah, blah. And then you meet someone and you're like, oh, is that still there?
Yep.
Surprise, I thought I've worked on that 100 times. Oh, you're still there. Okay.
Oh man,
yeah, it's only till you meet someone really that you're really into that comes up and you're like, oh, hello again.
Yes. Yeah. And then throw in fatherhood and all of my commitment stuff. So, all right, boys.
And welcome to the Conscious How to Be a Daddy show.
There we go. Oh, almost finished.
Welcome to How to Be a Conscious Daddy show.
You're talking about triggers? Oh man, fatherhood.
I would not have remembered. Yeah, you think you're cool, you think you're fine, you meet someone you finally really like, and hello, that's still there?
Yeah.
Really? How much have we done to work on you?
Yeah, it all came up having babies for Melinda and I, my fiance. All of that stuff that we thought we'd sorted out. But yeah, and then marriage this year has brought a lot of stuff up. It's just like around commitment. Okay, buddy, I love you. Bye-bye. Thank you for your patience, and for the viewers, yeah, thank you for your patience.
I love, they've actually come in at really interesting times. So they came in at one time when you were talking about that you have to play all these roles, and then you went from this to being quickly into another role. And then they came in again when we were talking about kind of, I guess it's like the inner child comes up, or those wounds come up again, you know, when you meet someone you like and then suddenly like that's still there, and they came up at that time as well. So I just found that really interesting.
Okay, boys, now we're in a space about boundaries. So you know that when Daddy works, that you don't get to come in here. So Daddy's working right now, and Daddy's asking for some space. Okay? So Daddy, come on. Oh. There you go.
Yeah, cool. Boundaries, so important. And it's never too early to start teaching children about them.
About boundaries?
Yeah.
No. And that was something that we asked, because we're like, being new parents, it's like, when do we start instilling boundaries? And that was like Breath, the eldest boy, was just over 2. And then our naturopath, she's like, oh yeah, he knows now. And that it's just that repetition thing, just again and again and again and again, like the breathing thing. It took me so long of sitting there and trying to do it. And then one day he just did it. And now he's teaching kids at kindy and his brother. And it was just that repetition, just staying in it, like they're sponges. So every time that, even though it was frustrating him not doing it how I thought I wanted him to do it, it was learning. And then just that conversation around, hey buddy, now it's the boundary aspect, you know, you can't come in, but they're disrespecting it, yet they're also getting that seed planted around boundaries. I'm like, oh, okay, now asking for what it is that they need. Exactly what we were talking about before.
Imagine learning boundaries at that age, like knowing that you have to respect other people's boundaries, but also that it's okay for you to be important enough to have boundaries and say what feels okay and what doesn't feel okay for you. If I had learned that as a young girl, my life I would have saved myself so much trauma with men, with life, with so many.
Yeah. There was with the Unlock the Warriors Code, so the workshop I'm running for men, I put it up in one of the spiritual groups here on the Sunshine Coast, and a lady said, oh, this looks amazing. Would it be good for an 18 or 21-year-old boy to come? I'm like, 100%. Then she's asked, is there another one that you're going to run in the school holidays? Because he's got a lot of assignments and everything coming up. I'm like, please just throw this back if you don't like what I say, just throw it back. It's no offense. Though this would be the most important thing he'd ever do in his life, ever. And like that, even with all of his failures and everything he wants to do, what he's studying right now, if he had failed and the challenges in life, he's got his value system to come back on, because this is where we set our boundaries from, our non-negotiables. We can't set that unless we know our values as the individual. So this is, literally one of the cornerstones of manhood. I think is the most important work that we can do as individuals, is to know our values, because then we get to set the goalpost for ourselves.
Yeah, wow. So it's so important. I just can't help myself thinking when you were talking about all these, that you're facilitating this amazing transformational space for men. As a single woman, like are you going to be sending these men to the Awake app?
Done, 100%. Because there's a section within my programs we talk about relationships, and so and the way that we frame it is that we prime men that are single to then how to call in a conscious relationship. So being very clear on what they desire in a woman, her traits, her attributes, how they make her feel. And then we make sure that, okay, if that's what you desire in a woman, are you being that, bro? And so this is the thing for the ladies as well. You want all of that in a man? Yeah. All of that, like that vision of what that man is, we need to, as humans, be the bridge to that. So if we want that, we need to be what it is that you seek. And so that was how Melinda and I actually met each other. She's got a vision board that it was like me to a T. It was actually like the exact make and model of and color of the ute I was driving. A dude with a tattoo similar to mine. Things in there like around sex and cooking and massage and retreats, and like everything that I love was in there. And I did mine a little bit different. So I actually, with one of my friends, talked about this ideal date. So I created this date that went for like, it was a whole day. And so we met. And in her profile, she had no photo. It was just a photo of her face. There's a photo of her shoes on top of a mountain. And then, hey, excuse me, sweetheart. No, this is Daddy's one. I've asked for some space now. I've almost finished. My red one is broken. Well, sweetheart, I've almost finished now. Okay. I'm. When I'm finished, I'll come out and I'll help you fix this. This is Daddy's space and time right now. Okay. I'm going to come back out in a moment.
And that is how to reassert your boundaries, which you will always have to keep doing.
I'm sorry, I missed all of that.
I said, this is how to reassert your boundaries when they're crossed.
Yes, yep, and that's it. There's that leeway, because if we don't, it's just like just keep testing the boundaries. There's like most people do. There's got to be consequences in place, and so yeah. But yeah, with that date, I'd actually created, like asked Melinda, I was like, hey, you got to have 3 outfit changes. So we went climb the mountain for sunrise, so to make sure she was adventurous. We went down the back of the mountain rather than the front, which was like just me and her solo, because adventure is really important to me. Then took her to an inflatable water park to make sure she could have fun. Wanted to see if she's fit in bikinis. And could just like to just see she's like just to get like be okay and confident within herself. Went to a restaurant for fine dining with seafood on the water. It's literally when we're getting married in November, just to make sure she enjoyed that aspect as well. And then went back to my place and had a couple of things set up there. But all of those things were markers for me to realize, like, okay, cool, she's this, just like a vision board. So yeah.
Amazing. I felt like I was watching a movie, like just a romantic movie. Like I'm so visual that I'm literally on top of the mountain with you guys just then. I was literally at the water park. So for these guys that go on the Awake dating app looking for a woman, what tips do you have? I mean, there's a lot of things on the Awaiting app that no other app has. So that held people accountable for saying what they do and doing what they say, men and women. What would you say to men out there who are looking perhaps for a serious relationship?
Yep. Before you go on a dating app, read No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Oh, is there no more Mr. Nice Girl? Because I would really like to read that.
I'm not sure if Robert, there would be somewhere, but I'm not sure if Robert Moore wrote it. Possibly, but no more Mr. Nice Guy, because majority of men, what they do when they go into the dating world is they diminish who they really are. So they become their ideal self, which is who they want to sell to the woman, rather than just being their real self. And so this is where this nice guy comes in. So men stop being authentically who they are, and then they diminish and they pretend to be something that they're not. And then what happens is that resentment builds up within the men. And so if you're able to be your real self from day one, you don't have to go through that process to try and claim back yourself. And so just don't lose yourself in the dating game, because there is someone that loves you and will love you for exactly who you are. And women want that, bro. They want all of you. And so don't pretend to be something that you're not, just to try and get a date or court a woman. Just be you, man. And listen, like literally, that book is a game changer. Read that.
Amazing advice, and 100% correct. For me, when I meet someone, like the more sparklier and shinier they are, not that I'm looking for someone who's completely feeling discombobulated, but I will say to them, for example, you know, what are the three, what's the word? I don't want to put it in a way that's going to offend anybody, but kind of like, what's the three things that, you know, you're still working on or you don't like about yourself, or just something juicy, something a bit of grit. I don't want to hear that you are a CEO of this company and you have this car. I don't care about that. Like, I want to talk about what connects us as humans. Like, give me gusto, straight up. I love it all, just as long as it's real. So I can confirm that.
Beautiful. 100%.
Thank you so much for your time today.
You're more than welcome.
I absolutely love chatting with you, and you better get back to your little kitties.
And this is the thing too. So I did promise, like, hey man, when I finish this, I'm going to go play. And I do have another meeting soon. So that meeting's going to wait, because I promised that, boy, there's more important than anything to me that I'll go play with you. And this is a big thing about trust. And so now I'm going to go definitely be my word with that. Otherwise, yeah, I'm not going to be a man of my word. And so looking forward to promoting this through everything that I do with all the men's teams. So ladies, know that I'm on your side, that this will be promoted, this app, through everything I do in every men's space, because also men are asking, where's all the beautiful conscious women at as well? So
well, now we all have it on one platform. Thank you so much, Blaze. Bless you a million times in everything that you're doing and bringing into the world. And we're going to put down all your links and workshops so people can find you and get in touch with the wonderful person that you are.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for having me.
Bless you. Talk soon, honey. Take care.
Adios.
Bye.